The Swiss franc has just exploded. And what does this mean? I just want to riff on this for a second, and then I'm going to get back to picking up your phone calls here. Because I see this very much like back in 2007, as I recall, early 2007, maybe even late 2006, whatever that first quarter was when U.S. housing starts dropped around 30%. And I came on the air and I said, okay, this means that the stock market's going to crash within a year. Look out. And I was right, tragically. And because it was the bursting of the housing bubble. Well, I believe that what's going on here, what had happened was 3 years ago, the euro is this cobbled together currency, all these different countries that are members of the European Union. Not all of them use the euro as their principal currency. For example, the UK doesn't. The Scandinavian countries don't. They still maintain the pound and the whatever they are. But this cobbled together currency, everybody wanted it to work, right? They in particular, a lot of Europeans wanted there to be something that could challenge the dollar. And so Switzerland was, in that game. They're not full members of the euro, they're not totally fully into it because they never gave up the Swiss franc. They still have their own currency. But what the Swiss, their equivalent of the Fed, their central bank, the Swiss central bank said 3 years ago was, we will not let the Swiss franc become more valuable than the euro by more than a ratio of 1 to 1.2. In other words, 1.20 euros, €1 20 cents buys a Swiss franc. The price is not going to go higher than that. Swiss francs we're not going to let the Swiss franc become more valuable. Now that's good news for their exporters because it means that their exports are cheaper. Like Swatch, which just came out and condemned what the Swiss central bank just did. But what happened yesterday was that the Swiss central bank said, we're lifting that cap. We are going to let the Swiss franc just float and go wherever it needs to go. And it exploded. It went up substantially. I mean, it went up something 20, 30%, 39%. The Swiss currency surged 39%. So, in other words, if you'd put $100,000 into Swiss francs last week, this week it would be worth $139,000, if I'm doing my math right. So actually, that's probably not doing my math right, but you get the point, a 39% increase. So why would they do this? I believe, and this from the James Schotter in Zurich and Michael Hunter in London writing in today's Financial Times. They are quoting Simon Derrick, the chief marketing strategy at BNY Mellon, a big bank. And he says the SNB, this is the Swiss central bank, either believes that the Russian crisis could intensify. Russia's on the edge of a Great Depression right now as a consequence of falling oil prices. Either believes that the Russian crisis could intensify, or more likely, that a program of quantitative easing from the European Central Bank is imminent. Now, if the European Central Bank does this quantitative easing, it is going to further separate the Swiss franc from the euro in terms of value, and they just didn't want that thing to blow up in their face. I think that there's a third thing going on here that nobody's talking about, and that is, and it's because nobody wants to go on the record saying this, because this is just stuff in Europe you do not say out loud, and unless you're a member of the far right Golden Dawn party in Greece, or the far left Syriza party, and that is that the European Union is on the edge of disintegration. It has basically become the German-French Union. Germany and France dominate the EU. Germany is the lender to everybody. In fact, there's a fascinating piece in today's Financial Times pointing out that in 1924, in 1929, in 1930-something or other, and in 1952 or 50, whatever the year was that we did the Marshall Plan, we bailed out Germany repeatedly. After World War I, after World War II, we bailed out Germany 4 times. And we being the United States and the rest of the world. And this article in today's Financial Times, and you can find it, it's a link right off their homepage, ft.com. Not a paid commercial endorsement, by the way. it's fascinating listening to rich people talk to rich people, right? The point that they're making is that Germany, it's time to pay back a little. Greece had to borrow money yesterday. The biggest bank in Greece is going, hey, we don't have enough money in our reserves, or we may not have enough money we need to get ready. Greece is going to hold elections in another month, and if Syriza wins, they may well pull out of the euro, the European Union, or at least stop using the currency and go back to the drachma, which I think they should do. And if they do that, it's going to shake the euro badly, and the Swiss don't want to be linked to the euro when that happens. And by the way, if the Greeks do that, the Spanish will do it next. And if the Spanish do it, the Portuguese will do it after that. If they do it, the Irish will do it after that. And then you're going to see a rush to the exit doors, and it's going to end up just Germany and France. And probably they'll go back to the Deutschmark and the franc. French franc? Yeah, it was the franc. So anyhow, that's my take on that. I've 3 or 4 times today I've said I was going to tell you about it. I think it's a huge, big deal, because if Europe comes unglued, the whole world comes unglued. I mean, you're looking at instability in China right now. You're looking at massive instability in the United States. And now we're looking at instability in Europe. This could be the setup for the crash of 2016. And even possibly World War III, God forbid. We'll see where this goes. Stay tuned to your dial, as they say.